All right. Before we get into today's episode, I gotta give a shout out to our newest sponsor once again, Old Bike Bond. If you are not familiar with Old Bike Bond, then you gotta go to oldbikebond.com. They got everything you need for your chopper, your cafe racer, your street tracker, whatever it is you're looking for. They got merch, they got swag, they got parts. They got a lot of stuff. Your old vintage Japanese motorcycle. I know a lot of people are always looking for that stuff. A lot of people come in here and I can't really help them out, and I always send them over to Old Bike Bond. Simply go to oldbikebond.com or on Instagram at Old Bike Bond. Bear's like a fucking pillar in the industry. One of the best dudes I've ever met in this in the motorcycle industry. So you definitely want to go give them a look. And they got stuff for Harley, they got stuff for the Japanese bikes, everything. And it's even divided up on the front page. Whether you're looking for, especially if you're looking for like chopper stuff specifically or whatever, or stuff like that. But check them out, oldbikebarn.com, Instagram, oldbikebarn. And if your dingus needs a little help, if during this COVID shit, we saw a lot of motherfuckers slacking on haircuts, right? You see people with all these fucking wild hair because they haven't gotten to go to a barber or anything like that. You can only imagine what the nether regions look like. If shit's that unkept up top, down below is a fucking swampy jungle. So you got to check out manscaped.com. They got a razor called the Lawnmower 3.0. It's got special scientifically developed ceramic blades so you don't cut yourself in the most sensitive of areas. So get down there, turn that shit on, and clip away, man. Deforest that area because none of your partners want to deal with that. I can guarantee it. And if they do, they got some weird fetish, and you're on a different level, So, but check them out, manscaped.com. Not only do they have the Lawnmower 3.0, they got like nose hair trimmers. They got all kinds of stuff to groom yourself. They got like ball toners and deodorants and things like that, anti-chafing things for when it gets hot and humid out, and you don't want anything rubbing around down there. But check them out, manscaped.com. If you use the promo code BIGTRUTH at checkout, you will get 20% off your order and free shipping. Don't get better than that. Again, promo code BIGTRUTH at checkout, 20% off your order. Also, if you're looking for a new hoodie, new shirt, some new wears, winter scarf, some socks, some shit like that, check out my brothers at omertamia.com, omertamia.com. One of the most legit and one of the only lifestyle brands out there that I endorse. Code of the streets type shit, old school honor, fucking shutting your mouth and handling your business type of shit. So check them out, omertamia.com, on Instagram and social medias at omertamia. And also over there, if you use the promo code BIGTRUTH at checkout, 20% off your order. And they got all kinds of rad shit. You just gotta go check it out. They even got an app, so if you go on the App Store and look up Omerta or Omertamia, you'll find that. They always got all kinds of specials going on and cool shit. So get over there. And if you're into motorcycles and choppers and building bikes and chopper riding and motorcycle riding and moto biking and all that stuff, you need to check out Chop Cult. They are the biggest online resource and information clearinghouse for all that type of shit. And you go on there, there's a big message board, and it's broken up by topic, so you can find kind of more specifically what you're looking into finding out more about. They got an online swap meet where you can buy and sell and trade parts. They got an events page where you can find out about motorcycle-related events going on all across the world. They got newsletters where they'll push information out to you if you're too lazy to get on there. Just, whatever it takes, man. And it's cool. It's been around forever. And it's legit. I know Lisa over there, like, really tries her best and works really hard to make it a cool environment. And the best part about it, it's absolutely free to join up. You don't got to put in a credit card or nothing sketchy. So check them out at chopcult.com and simply at chopcult on all the social medias. If you're looking for some cool fucking punk and metal and hardcore related clothing or 7 inches, you need to check out Pitchfork, pitchforkny.com. They like I've said before, they're a mainstay in those worlds. And Warren and Company have been doing some rad designs and shirts and stuff. You might have, Warren was on my podcast here a few episodes back. He's been stage manager for Slayer. He's worked for all kinds of bands and shit. But yeah, man, they got some of the coolest fucking designs out there in the game. So check them out, pitchforkny.com. They also have a 7-inch music series called Back to School, where they put out split 7 inches, all on limited color vinyl colorways and stuff, with a West Coast punk or hardcore metal band on one side and an East Coast band on the other. You know, bands like Sick of It All, Murphy's Law, fucking Rancid, fucking Count Time, Thug Riot. There's been all kinds of shit on there. But yeah, you just got to go check them out. Pitchforkny.com. What else? Who else is repping? Oh, Chopperhead. If you want some cool motorcycle gear or apparel, parts. But we're also a full-service fucking motorcycle shop, so if you need an oil change or you need a full custom chopper built, give us a ring, 508-995-6764, 13 County Road, East Freetown, Massachusetts. You want a motorcycle helmet? Come on in. Try the fuck one on before you go try and buy one online and annoy someone because you ordered the wrong size because you couldn't read shit right, or because all these helmets have changed their sizing and shit and whatnot. Come on in. 13 County Road, East Freetown, chopperhead.com. And, online, I admit, I gotta update that shit and get more shit on there, but we're set up with everybody. So if you need a Thunderheader, you need some Bassani pipes, you need an SNS fucking, big bore setup, whatever you need, man, we can get it for you. So give us a call, or shoot us an email, or order it straight online. If you don't see it online, that's what I'm saying. Give us a call or shoot us an email. And if you want more information on the podcast here, simply just go to bigtruthpodcast.com. Every episode's up there. And we got a blog and all that stuff that I haven't really been updating that much. It's been crazy, because I'm down a couple guys at the shop, and I've been running around on full craziness mode where I'm trying to run the shop, trying to work in the back, trying to do the fabrication stuff, trying to get some of these fucking bikes that we need to do service stuff on out of here. We got a couple of big builds. It's been bananas. So, don't sweat me, bro, if I'm not updating my blog. But I'm just kidding. But I hope to be able to have some more time freed up soon to be able to do some of that shit. And if you really like this podcast and you want to financially get involved, meaning if you want to help me out that way, you can go on patreon.com/bigtruth. And that's a way for you guys to be able to support the podcast, get more involved with the podcast, get exclusive features and benefits and like advanced copies of some of the podcasts so you get it ahead of time. Or I'm going to be doing some exclusive podcasts just for the Patreon listeners, things like that. There's exclusive merch and discounts at Chopperhead, all kinds of shit. It pays for itself, actually, if you sign up. And, I definitely super, super appreciate it. I always put shit out there ahead of time if I know who's coming on and be like, hey, is there anything you want to know about this specific person? Or we're doing an M4, what kind of shit you want to hear about, stuff like that. It's just a way to kind of get more involved in shit, and I definitely listen and try and get back to everyone really quickly over there and whatnot. So go to patreon.com/bigtruth and you can check it out. There's 4 tiers of ways you can support, from like $5 to $50. So it's nothing crazy. But, if you look at this podcast, a lot of episodes are between 2 and 3 hours, put out for a month. That's like 12 hours of content that you're getting for absolutely free. And I don't mind giving it free, but you know what? When motherfuckers choose to support, that gets me fucking stoked, because someone is so into this content that they're willing to voluntarily pay for it, man. That speaks volumes, keeps me excited, keeps me going. So thank you all thank you all to every listener of this, but especially to the Patreon motherfuckers, because you guys are really stepping up. And even if you're not on Patreon, you can always just make sure you give us a like, give the episodes a like, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, family, whoever. get people involved. We want to keep this thing growing. I'm rambling on too much here. We got a very special episode coming up next. My homie CJ Ramone. You might know him from a little band called the Ramones. So I ain't gonna rabble on here anymore. Let's get into it right the fuck now.
The Big Truth Podcast. Laying down the hatches! Get ready!
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Yes, once again, we have liftoff. I want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Big Truth Podcast. And I'm stoked to have my man CJ Ramone with me here. You might know him from a little band called the Ramones, or you might know him because he's had a very fucking successful solo career going for years now. And he's been touring nonstop until COVID hit and ruined that whole industry for everybody. So since you can't go see him right now, at least you can hear from him right now, right?
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Not much. Just not here in sunny California.
Yeah. No, I remember.
Enjoying not being in the winter.
Yeah. I mean, you moved not too long before all this bullshit started really popping off, right? Like it wasn't that long
I've been out here. I've been out here like this July will actually be 3 years. But even though my family was out here, I was on the road almost for the entire time when we first transferred out here. And since COVID hit, this is the most time I've spent at home on my ass in the same place in 30 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I've
crazy.
never been home. Yeah, we're working on 2 years now of the COVID thing, right? This March will be the second year that we've been in the lockdown. So, yeah, it's the longest time I've ever sat still.
I know it's insane. I still can't fathom it. And it seems like, slowly things are starting to pick back up, but not as fast as I feel like they should be. But, whatever, that's whatever. Like we don't have any control over that. It just is what it is. But, hopefully now that, all these vaccinations have rolled out, we can start getting back to some sense of normalcy at an increased rate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so now you're getting to enjoy sunny California, even though, how are you digging it? I mean, it's always interesting to talk to East Coast guys that and gals that transplant out west. I know right now you must be enjoying it because we've been getting fucking hammered with snow out here.
Oh God, I know. I've been watching it. All my friends posting up stuff. Hey, a foot of snow, foot and a half of snow. Blah, blah. My whole thing when we moved, when we first moved out here, and some of my buddies from out here were like, after the first couple months, were like, "So how do you like living out here?" I'm like, "Brother, if I don't have to shovel snow, I'm a happy man."
Yeah,
that was the bane of my existence, was having to shovel snow every winter. But it is it's definitely a whole different culture out here, without a doubt. East Coast. My dad's a native New Yorker. My mom's from Boston, Mass, East Boston. I'm 100% East Coast guy. But so when I tell you that there's definitely a cultural difference, it definitely is. But the good thing is because I'm involved in the music business, it makes the transition so much easier. Like most of the guys I know out here, I knew for years before I moved out here. So I had people to call when I wanted to go do something. I had somebody to call and go, "Hey, I need to find a good Italian restaurant, or who's a good tattoo shop around here." So it made the transition a little easier.
So did you find a good Italian restaurant out there? That's a big question for an East Coast guy.
This is the kind of the treaty I had to make with myself on this point is that you have to just treat it as a whole different thing.
Sure.
You can't come out here and expect to get Italian, East Coast Italian food the same way out here. It's totally, totally different. If I cook, my mom was Italian, so I learned to cook for my mom. So when we have people over and I cook Italian, they're like, "Oh, this is so good." Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I guess you've never been in New York.
Yeah.
Because to them, it's like a whole different thing. But I tell you, I really do enjoy it, man. I've got nothing but good things to say about being out here.
Yeah, man, and plus you got a way more increased riding season, you know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yep.
So,
Yeah.
are you one of those sadistic bastards that when all your East Coast friends and family are griping about snow, you're sending them pictures of you standing in your pool with with shorts on or some shit like that?
Every minute, anytime somebody puts something, I put up a post yesterday. The best thing about winter in New York is watching it from California.
Yeah, no, I did a couple years where I lived in Arizona and I was in Tucson, and I remember that first January when everyone was like, you know, I was hearing all the reports of back home and snow, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'm just out in my shorts walking around the desert right now, hiking and shit, you know, just being a dick, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But you know, people don't understand, you know, snow for us, like what a inconvenience it can be, because it's not just the shoveling, but it's like, especially if you live in the city. I mean, I live in the woods now, so it's a little different. I come home, I know I got a place to park. I got 4-wheel drive. If it's not plowed, I can still get in. But like when I lived in South Boston, Dorchester, I'd drive around for like 2 hours to try to find a spot. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. And then God forbid you find a spot and it's the only spot there, but you didn't dig it out because you know when you park there, your window's going to be smashed the next day or shit like that. You know, whatever. You know, it gets brutal, man. We used to call it the Southie parking wars. Like people would shovel out their stuff, like their spot, move their car, but put a toilet there, just crazy shit, like so that no one would take the spot. It's fucking bananas.
Oh man, that's great.
And you know how vindictive East Coast assholes are. You know what I mean? It was just like winter is a war for us. It's just a war for 3 months. You know, but anyway, but it's weird, man, because it's starting to snow later. Like, you know, when I was a kid. Hello, I think the phone got dropped for some reason. You there?
Oh yeah,
yeah. That was very.
Mine or yours?
I don't know. It looks like I still got you on 2 lines here, but hey, these are the glitches of having to do things over the phone. But you sound crystal clear, so it's perfect. But I was just saying, you know,
hold on, maybe it's my phone.
Yeah, but you're still on here, so we're good. We're good.
Okay.
All
right.
But yeah, so it's just crazy, you know, like you know, but it's been starting to like winter is weird here. It's later. Like when I was a kid, I remember it used to snow in December and shit like that. Now it doesn't start snowing until like now. Like you know, and then it goes from now to March, you know, and it's like when I was a kid, March we were already, you know, it was already spring kind of, and it's not now. But when we lived up in Boston, I forget what year it was like one of the worst blizzards they had on record. Was it 67, 68 maybe? No, 78. It had blizzard of 78. Oh, maybe. Oh, wow. No, so I'm thinking of a different. It's got to be different because 78 we were already living, and we were back in New York. Okay. But when I was a kid, we were living up there, and one year there was a really bad blizzard, and I remember the snow drifts around our apartment building was so high that my dad actually opened up a window to get out because the snow had blown up against the front door. So when I think of like wintertime, like that's what I think of, you know. Yeah. But we haven't really had any storms like that in a real long time. You know, maybe once every 10 years we'll get hit with a real bad one. But I remember when I was a kid, we used to get, you know, at least once a winter we would get like a real serious snowstorm. Yeah, no, I know, it's crazy. I think the last big one like that was about almost 10 years ago. Now I remember I was at my buddy's house and I ended up getting snowed in. I couldn't get out of his street wasn't plowed and the snow drifts were so high like we couldn't get out for like 3 days. It was bananas. Yeah. You know, I was like, man, but yeah, it is what it is. You know, it's winter, whatever. We'll deal with it. But yeah, man. So I'm glad you're enjoying it out there in sunny California. Hey, did everything out? Like I remember before you moved, like there was like a bike that you were grabbing out here and it had to get shipped. Did everything ever get situated with that? I forgot to ask you about that. Oh yeah. I've had it. Yeah, I've had it for a while now. Yeah, no, I figured. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. I got in touch with you to go over and check it out. Yeah, it's 75 FLH. Yeah, so you're still riding that? Yup. Oh yeah, and it was pretty much bone stock. It still had all that, you know, goofy. The oil lines are all still goofy on it. You know, going into the crankcase. I mean the primary and all of that. That's what I was thinking about doing
coming up the next couple of weeks, I'm not going to be. I won't be riding. We get a fair amount of rain this time of year. I'm up in Northern California. I'm in the East Bay.
Okay.
So this is when we get a fair amount of rain. So I was thinking maybe I'd reroute those oil lines and isolate the primary and get because right now I'm in a rental and I'm making my landlord's garage look like shit because that thing's it's still it's got the drip on the chain there. So my garage looks like a giant piss puddle of oil.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, man. But the East Bay, man, that's I can't even imagine trying to buy something out there, man. That's like the only place where the fucking real estate's worse than like Boston and New York.
Yeah. Oh, it's out of control, brother. It's out of control.
Although New York has been coming down a lot, I'm sure you heard about that. Like Manhattan rents are crazy. Like it's like half of what they used to be. They're giving you like 3 months free and craziness like that.
Yeah. Well, nobody wants to be in there, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It looked like, it looked for a while like it was, New York City had the absolute worst anywhere in the country as far as, infection rates go. So people were getting out of there like it was a good thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
But it'll turn around, as soon as everyone gets inoculated, they'll pump the rents back up and people start moving back.
I know. Now's the time to buy if you get some money because you'll probably buy cheaper and then, sit on it a couple of years. And then when everyone forgets about this and then everyone's back in the cities and you just be like, download it. Although it might be different, man, because I think one of the lessons that, we're seeing is that people, especially these big companies, they don't need to have the big New York office anymore, you know what I mean? Because they just realize half these motherfuckers can do whatever they do for the company from home, and so they don't need the big offices and all that shit anymore. So be interesting to see what happens with all this, because we're by no means out of it. It's going to be years till this all fucking straightens out.
Without a doubt, brother, without a doubt. And the other thing is they're actually getting more work out of people because I mean, my wife works from home now, and what she does is she gets up in the morning. And at the time she would usually be getting in the car to drive to the train station to get on the train to get to work, she's already working by 7:30 in the morning. 7:30. You know what I mean? And then, because there is no, I got to catch the train home or nothing, she ends up working a couple extra hours at the end of the day too. So they're actually getting more work out of her for the same money.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that
they don't got to pay for her office. Yeah.
Yep. So I think you're 100% right. I think that one of the positives that'll come out of it anyway will be that people will be able to just stay, work out of their homes, spend more time with their family, and all of that stuff. It's a less stressful lifestyle if you're working out of your house than if you got to go into the city and you're running around and grabbing a greasy burger and just doing what you could do and getting out of the city. It's just a hell of a lot less stressful this way, but we'll see, brother. You know how it goes, man. Sometimes the thing you think makes the most sense is going to happen, and that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything gets turned on its head. You're like, did I just wake up in an alternate universe here, or what?
I mean, like before this COVID shit, like would you think we're out where we at? Would you think we're at where we are now? No, hell no. You would never.
Hell no.
You never think about that. Like imagine, like you're probably like me too. You think about it in terms of like, I can't believe it's been this long. Never mind you like performing or playing shows. How long has it been since you've like gone without going to a show? Like, and it's like, I mean, I haven't gone
without
this long.
Any live music.
Yeah, it's bananas. And if there is live music, it's like, way more limited and you can't really.
Yeah.
I know it's starting to trickle in a little bit now, but especially, depends where you are. Like Florida, I guess, is just wide open, whatever. It's like Wild West, whatever the fuck you want.
They are like a bunch of cowboys out there, man. They just don't care. They're just like, hey, if we get it, we get it. We're just going to go with it, but we can't just let all these businesses die,
Yeah.
I mean, I see the point. I see, I understand that argument, and I totally get it. But for me, it's a little different because I got my dad who lives with me, and if he got it, man, it would make short work of him. He's 80 years old. Me and him worked down at Ground Zero together, so he's got compromised lungs. He's only got one kidney. He developed a kidney cancer on his kidney after working down that stuff. Like, so I work hard to make sure that nobody brings it into my house.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But like, if I was a young person living in Florida, I might not be so. I might not care so much. I'd be like, hey, if I get it, I'll be in the hospital for a little while. I'll survive it. It's just like the flu, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But me in my position, I need to be careful. Plus, I got my baby girl. She's only 10, and she's got asthma. So that's I got 2 people in the house that are have compromised lungs. So I got to be careful.
Yeah,
but I kind of get what they're doing in Florida. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's stupid. That's the reason why we can't get rid of it and blah, blah. And realistically, the reason why we can't get rid of it has nothing to do with that. The reason why we can't get rid of it is that we don't have a vaccine.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have a vaccine.
Sure.
And at this point now, like, I think they said we need to inoculate 70% of the population before it's actually safe. Like, before we can actually even think about going back to how we were. But
yeah,
but here's the thing that you got to remember. Even if we get 70% of Americans inoculated, that only counts if nobody else is coming in.
Yep.
But we have so much immigration in our country that, you're never going to get, it's going to be hard to get ahead of that. You know what I mean? So we actually need to get everybody here inoculated. That's really what it comes down to. And I know there's a whole lot of people saying, I ain't getting the vaccination for this reason, for that reason, blah, blah, and this and that. But I mean, like I said, for me, I got to protect my I got to protect my dad, my little girl. I got to protect my family. So I do whatever I got to do to make sure that they're safe. And that's my point on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And that's a very, understandable perspective to have, especially when you got 2 people compromised lungs in your household.
Yeah.
What gets me about the Florida shit is like that's where so many people go to retire. So they have this massive elderly population. So you would think that their death rates would be like in the top 5 states, and they're not. They're they're kind of in the middle. So it's kind of bizarre. Like it's like, what's going on down there? But they say the sun kills it too. So maybe it's because it's more sunny down there. Who knows, man?
Yep.
It's a lot more research needs to be done.
I mean, realistically, man, at this point, no matter what we've tried, no matter how they've gone at it and everything else, it just seems like we just keep getting these like time periods where it spreads a lot, and it's always after the holidays.
Yeah.
And that's because people are getting together with their families, and then it spreads with their families and stuff. But I mean, what are you going to do? You can't outlaw people getting together with their families. You know what I mean? You can't tell people, no, you're not allowed to go to your relative's house. And I mean, they tried. They told people, no more than 10 people, and you got to have a mask and this and that. But when people get their family over and they close the door, nobody gives a shit about what the governor says.
Yeah.
Nobody cares what the governor says. They get with their friends and family, and everyone's just hanging out, pounding beers, eating food, relaxing, kicking back.
Yeah. Your own governor doesn't care what the governor says, though, right? Like that motherfucker got caught. Like, oh yeah, no. He got caught red-handed being at a dinner party, like with a bunch of people, no mask and all that shit. That's what's crazy, It's human nature, man. Like it's what are you gonna do? But yeah, man, fucking, how has it been not being able to like perform for so long? Like, what have you been doing? Like, have you been doing stuff like trying to get more creative with like doing merch stuff, or like how you been kind of getting by with the ability to tour so debilitated right now?
So 2019, I announced that I wasn't going to be doing any more live shows. I announced I'm retiring, right?
Yep.
From doing my own solo stuff. So I was kind of prepared to be kicked back and not be doing much musically. I still play bass I still do some stuff with Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. I play bass with them. But as far as my solo stuff, I said, I'm done. I got a lot of time in. I had a lot of health issues at that point, and I was just really busted up and in bad shape. So I was kind of prepared for it. So I've kind of, even though it's gone on longer than I thought, I've kind of enjoyed being away from everything for a while. This is the most time I've got to spend with my family since my kids were babies. You know what I mean? I've never ever spent this much time with them on a daily basis.
Sure, yeah.
And I moved my dad in the February just before we locked down in March, right? We locked down March 2020. So that February, I moved my dad in out here. Me and my dad haven't spent this much time together probably since before I was a teenager.
Sure, yeah.
So it's like I've really been enjoying the time of just being with my family, no distractions, cooking good meals every day and shooting the breeze. And I mean, they get on my nerves and stuff, and I get on their nerves like every other family. But the bottom line is we really have enjoyed the time together. But musically, I've been playing a lot more acoustic guitar. I've been messing around. On New Year's Eve, I did a little acoustic version of Old Lang Syne and put it up. And I'm playing around a little bit here and there, but I'm really just enjoying being away.
Sure,
being away from it. Gotta remember.
Hello. I'm going to pause this right here and try and get CJ back on the line. I don't know what happened here. Hold on 1 second.
Lenny's been out on the road.
Hey, hold on 1 second. You just came back on. The thing, I don't know, the phone just did that glitch thing, and now you're only on one line. You were on two lines, and you sound a lot clearer. So I don't know what happened. One of our phones is screwy, but I missed a couple seconds of that. The last thing I heard you say was I enjoyed having the time off, and then it was quiet for a minute, and then I just heard Lenny Lashley. So I didn't anything in between that. I didn't pick up. I didn't know if you said you wanted to quit because you had Lenny Lashley out with you on that last tour.
No, but Lenny will tell you, man. I'm not easy on myself on the road, but I really get after it. 'Cause I think, like when I'm out on the road, like I have to make all the decisions. It's all on me. Everything's on me. So. And then being the singer and the bass player and everything, it's really, when you travel with a band and the name of the band is your name, it's a fair amount of stress. So when I'm on the road, like as soon as the show is over, I'm getting after it pretty hard. But I was doing that for a lot of years, And then like end of 2019, I mean, I was just busted up. I was really in bad shape. I had all kinds of health problems. And I probably around January, probably around December, January, I said to my wife, I was like, I just can't do this no more. I can't live like this no more. I gotta get myself together. So I dried out, stopped drinking, changed my diet, started hiking up in the hills behind the house, and I started running and got active. I dropped like 35 pounds. I've got off all my meds, and now I really feel good. Like now, so I've been living that lifestyle now for a year, and not that I'm totally dry. I'm I can drink a beer and watch the Super Bowl, or have some wine with dinner, or even have a nice little glass of whiskey on the rocks or something. But I can do just that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can just do that, and it just made my whole head operate a hell of a lot better than when I just there was no such thing as having a drink or having a couple of drinks. It was crack the bottle, finish the bottle.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. Well, dude,
and 30 years of that, brother. That's it takes its toll on you.
Fuck yeah, I know, I can imagine, man. But yeah, well, hey, congrats to you, man, for like being able to do that and turn shit around. And it's crazy how just kind of getting more proactive with your own health, like how fast you can get off all the crazy pharmaceuticals and all the shit that's prescribed to you, which all that shit, gives you other fucking side effects and makes you feel weird and this and that. And then all of a sudden you're chasing all those things and they're giving you something to deal with the side effect of the other fucking thing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, that's fucking rad. So Yeah, dude, I'm stoked for you and then plus to be able to get to a place where now you can just have one glass of whiskey and not like have to go fucking full fucking bore and shit like that. That's a good place to be, man, for sure, man.
And you know, like I've watched, you know, I watched some, you know, during this whole cycle of everything going on, like I've watched some people go through some major depressive stuff and really get hard into, you know, get even deeper in their hole, you know what I mean? Like just really getting down and you know, and dark. And I tried to, you know, to go in the other direction. Like I was like, I'm going to make this time for a positive change, because without all the distractions, I mean, I get it. You know, some people like being, you know, they're just isolated and alone. Well, people that struggle with mental health issues, now you take away their ability to socialize and everything else, and it becomes exponentially worse. For me, I needed time by myself. I needed time alone. I needed time to get my head unfucked. You know what I mean? Sure. And I made that conscious decision that I was like, this is a really crazy time period, but I'm going to use it to my benefit. I'm going to find a way to make it work for me. And I'm lucky, brother. I was born with more will than skill. That's always what I tell everybody. I'm one of those people. I have my willpower far outpaces my skill, my talent, or anything else. And that's served me really well a couple of different times in my life. And this time is one of them. This is a, you know, pretty dark period in general for, you know, for the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can either surrender, you know, and give into it, or just kind of, you know, lay back and take it easy, or you can really just get after it and do the work on yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm just lucky, brother. I got more will than skill.
Yeah, man. Well, that's good, man. And I know exactly what you're saying, because, you know, during all this, shit didn't really change for me. I still worked every day because, you know, we didn't have to close down the bike shop because it was one of those essential things. The tattoo shop did, but, you know, that was that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I watched a lot of people I know, like, either, like, get really bummed out and depressed, or maybe, you know, stop fucking around with alcohol more or other things more and fucking going down a spiral like that. And then other motherfuckers just like learned new skills and got involved in all kinds of new shit and picked shit up. I'm like, when else in your life are you going to have a whole fucking year off to kind of like work on shit, man, you know?
You're right. 100% right, brother. This is, you know, rich people, they see people involved in the stock market, they see these times as an opportunity, because now people are having struggles financially, so they're selling off their stuff. Yeah. The rich people are out there buying it all up because they're buying it at pennies.
Pennies,
you know what I mean?
Dollar,
they're getting it for nothing. Yep. So if you look at your quality of life in the same way, right, where right now it's a really rough time for everybody, and things are really tough. But if you can see the positive, like, hey, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to make my life better, to stop suffering every day, to clear out some of the bullshit in my head and work out what's really going on, what's really at the heart of what's messing me up. You know, if you understand it in that way, and you're not afraid to sit down and look in the mirror and just say, hey, you're a shitbird. You know, you need to straighten yourself out and stop making excuses. And so, or you look in the mirror and you go, holy shit, I can't believe I survived that. Now, how do I make myself better? Yeah. You know what I mean? As long as you're looking in the mirror and you're challenging yourself and you're asking the right questions and stuff, you could turn a bad situation like this into something positive. Yep. But you got to have that mindset. You got to have that willpower to do it.
Yeah.
And I know, brother, my life is, I can't complain about my life at all. I know there's people out there who I know personally people who have had messed up, bad lives, all kinds of bad stuff happen to them. And I'm not saying that they're not as good a person as I am because they can't, you know, buck up and take it on the chin or whatever. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. My point is that I realized, like, I needed to change. I need to I needed to find out, what was driving all that stuff that I was doing, why I was beating myself up so bad, but, why I was, just having problems with everybody in my life, and, some people, the noise in their head is so loud, they can't get to that point. They can't get to that point. They have so much going on in their head that they don't have the ability to stop and to realize that sometimes it takes somebody else to step in, a friend or a family member to step in and go, hey, listen, I can tell you're suffering. I can tell you're hurting. Whatever I can do to help you out, you tell me, and I'm, money, time, whatever you need, I'll be there for you. Some people need that. Some people really do. But I just, I felt like my whole life was all about me for so many years. My family got put on the side because, I got to go on tour. I got shows. I got this, miss my kids' birthdays, miss my wedding anniversary, constantly like pushing things out of the way so I could get out on the road, make a living and do my thing, So now, when everything stopped and all of a sudden I realized my behavior, my road behavior, I was bringing it home into my house.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't live like this in front of my children. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't want them growing up thinking that it's cool to sit down and knock off a bottle of whiskey, watching the ball game before I go to bed.
Sure.
I realized like, wow, I got to change that. And I would, like I said, got more will than skill, but my life has been easy enough that I still have the ability to recognize that. But there's some people out there suffering a hell of a lot more than I ever did that are really struggling through this. And that's, I got a couple buddies. I call up and check on them every couple weeks. You know what I mean? Put the call in. Hey, how's it going? Just to make sure they're still around.
Yeah.
People in some dark places. But that's one thing I try to tell everybody too, is reach out to your friends, man. You never know what's going on when everybody else ain't around. You never know what's going on in their head,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Like some of the people I know that have taken their own lives, like you would never even know, like, when you just saw them socially out and about, they'd be smiles. Hey, yeah, everything's going great, blah, blah, blah. Everyone puts on, like people that are really going to do that shit, a lot of times put on a facade that they're, things are better than it is, and then, and then people that, are threatening it, they're also crying out for help too. I'm not discounting that, but it's just like you said, reach out to people because you never know.
You never know. It might be a guy who's sending everybody weird messages like, hey, I just wanted to say, thanks for everything you ever did for me and blah, blah, blah. You got to watch out for those guys, but you got to watch out for the other guys too, who always act happy. They never seem down and, and everything is, let's get together and have a drink, blah, 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 blah. And you got to, there's so many different signs, so many different, ways that people are putting it out there that they're on the edge, but the only way you're ever going to know is if you do the work, you know what I mean? If you put the work in and really be a friend and just call up and be like, hey, what's up? You doing all right?
Yeah.
Everything's good. You're staying engaged. You're doing your things that make you happy. Obviously we're both into bikes, right? Probably a lot of people are listening. My wife knows when things are really bad because I'll just go out, get on my bike, and take off without saying anything.
Yeah.
I won't even say nothing. I'll just get on my bike and leave. You know what I mean? Because that for me is, there isn't a therapy or a drug or type of alcohol I ever had that ever matches what it feels like to get on the bike and just bust out and blow everything off. Put the tent on the back and just hit the road and go. You know what I mean? Get away for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, and just get out there and do it. That to me, it works better than anything else. That works better than anything else. But that's the thing that I think about. There's people out there who do the opposite. They run to drugs and alcohol when they're hurting. That's what they run to. And the problem with that is, man, is it just just makes the hole that much deeper every time.
Yeah, even if temporarily you feel better, in the long run, that's
Yep.
just you're just digging deeper.
Yeah.
Especially with brain chemistry, if you understand what that stuff's doing to you inside. But yeah, so speaking of riding and shit, man, how are you enjoying the riding out there in Northern California?
Oh, it's nice, brother. It's so nice. And the beautiful thing too is I got friends down in Southern California too. So like I do the ride. It's 7-8 hour ride, maybe a little bit more, down to like the San Diego area.
Yeah.
And man, it's so nice.
Yeah, San Diego is beautiful. I don't understand why LA's so congested and San Diego is. I mean, San Diego's not empty, but it's got its share of things. But like, I mean, it's so fucking beautiful in San Diego, and the weather is like perfect, like year round, for the most part.
But I tell you, in all honesty, I really miss riding. I really miss riding on the East Coast. You know what I mean? It's especially like in the spring and in the fall when the air is cool and dry, and the carbureted. That's carbureted weather. Of course, my bike's carbureted, but my bike always runs good in that weather. But even the corny shit, like the change in the seasons, you go for a ride up the Adirondacks or whatever, and all the trees are changing colors and everything. I mean, that's just beautiful. You know what I mean? It's gorgeous. Riding up the East Coast, I did a ride one year. I went from Long Island. I rode up to Maine. I stopped and saw my mom and dad when they were living up there. Well, first, actually, I stopped in Drake and met a friend of mine. He came with me. And then rode up to my mom and dad's in Maine. We rode all the way up to Canada. Took the ferry across to Nova Scotia. Rode all in Nova Scotia. Then rode New Brunswick, all the way up to northern Quebec, and then back down to Maine, and then to Mass, and then Long Island. That was some of the most beautiful riding I've done, and I've ridden through all the lower 48. I did it all on a rigid. I did it on the Lollapalooza tour in '96, the Ramones retirement tour.
Nice. What was the bike? It was a rigid what, like an Evo or
an Evo? Yeah. Nice. I had bought when I got to the Ramones. We toured a lot, right? So I didn't even, I never had time to spend my paychecks, and I didn't make a lot. I made $350 a week, but because I wasn't home a lot, I lived on my per diems when I was on the road. And I socked away all my cash. So after like the first, 2 years, I was in the band. I had 15,000 cash saved.
Yeah.
I went down to the Harley Davidson dealer. I walked in. I pointed to the fat boy. I was like, I want to take that bike home today. And I put the cash down on the guy's desk. And he was like, all right, let's do the paperwork. So I bought a brand new fat boy in February in '92, and it was bone stock fat boy. The fat boy, was black. And in June of that year, I think it was June or July, maybe. Well, it was graduation night or prom night or something like that. I was riding a couple of miles from my house. And the old story, some kid going to a party, made a left turn in front of me. I never even hit my brakes. I went face first off his windshield, rolled over the roof of the car, and actually landed on my feet and turned around and watched my bike slide off the hood of his car and hit the pavement. Oof. And I hit him at 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And when I tell you there wasn't anything left of the bike, I mean, the motor and the tranny were the only thing salvageable. Frame, even the swing arm was bent. It was just totally destroyed. I think I saved the pulley, secondary pulley, and then I saved the oil tank, I think it was, and the motor and the tranny. So I had a friend that owned a boneyard, so he bought the wreck off my insurance company, and then for $50 or something, and then I bought it off him because you can't buy it directly off your insurance company because that's like anti-fraud laws or something in New York.
Yeah.
But so I got the wreck back to my house. I pulled the motor in the tranny. I bought a Palco wishbone frame, a rigid, and I bought I put a center line on the back and a spoke on the front. I had just like a 3.5 foot sissy bar on it with 10-inch apes. But a buddy of mine had a machine shop, so I designed these risers that I wanted to use that look like dog bones, but they were just a little bit different.
Okay.
And he machined them out of aluminum for me. And then, 92, nobody was making. There weren't a whole lot of aftermarket parts for Evos, and I wanted a 3-inch open belt. So they didn't make one for a 5-speed tranny. So I bought a 4-speed shaft, pressed the gears off the 5-speed shaft, and then pressed them onto the 4-speed shaft. It fit right in the case. And then we milled up a bearing support for it, and we used a 4-speed 3-inch open belt on it. And I was running a Morris Magneto with no battery in it. I had what else did I have on that thing? I don't know. I stroked the motor to 96, but that bike, I rode that thing through all the lower 48. Got a ticket in almost every single state too.
Yeah, but so were you riding it like on tour when so the band would jump in the bus or something, and you would just jump on the bike and follow?
No, I had a pickup truck, and I had a friend of mine follow me with a trailer with all my tools and everything. Because the deal was when we were doing our retirement tour in '95, right, and then slugging it out in the same little clubs, and then we got offered Lollapalooza in '96. But when I wrecked my bike in '92, I told Johnny, listen, the summer '96, don't book anything because I'm going to do a cross-country motorcycle trip. So when Johnny came to me at the end of our tour in '95 and said, hey, we got offered Lollapalooza next summer, I told him, I was like, hey, John, listen, why don't you get Dee Dee back in the band and do the final tour with Dee Dee and Tommy, get Tommy to come back and play drums. I said, it'll be a really poetic end to a really awkward career. I was like, the fans will love it. The press will love it. It'll be a really cool end of, the Ramones career. And Johnny was like, no, he was like, just take your time and think about it and let me know. So I thought about it, and I felt bad that like our retirement tour was doing the same clubs that they've been doing all these years. And I was like, yeah, they deserve a better send off than that,
Yeah.
So I went back to John and I was like, hey, John, listen, here's the deal. I'll do the tour, but I'm doing it on my bike, and I'm not keeping no schedule except my own. I said, I'll be there for the show, but what I do before and after is my time. And he was like, all right, but if you miss a show, you lose a week's pay. Week's pay was $500. I was like, oh, that's going to break the bank. So at first I was just going to head out on my own. But the problem is, I was on the road so much, I didn't get the bike finished until like a month before we were leaving on this trip. So I had almost no break-in time on it, like none. So I got at first I had a van. A friend of mine following me with the van and the trailer, but the van shit the bed. So when we got back to New York to play, I picked up a pickup truck and then finished out the tour in that. So that tour was, I don't know, a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then when the tour ended, it ended out in LA. So I spent another month probably just riding around, I spent a lot of time out in the Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah. I came up here, stayed in San Francisco for a little while with a friend of mine tattoo artist who had just opened up or who was in the process of opening a shop. So I spent a couple weeks with him, but yeah, I did the whole thing on that rigid.
That's rad. What's some of the more interesting highlights from that trip? Doing a tour like Lollapalooza, cross country type tour, like on riding your rigid behind the band and stuff. Like what? Some wacky shit had to happen, man.
Well, there's a good one. We were playing. I think it's either New Hampshire or Vermont, and a good friend of mine, Steve Bongi from the Third Street crew in Manhattan. So I told him, I said, hey, if any of the local chapters want to come out to some of these shows, let me know, and I'll leave word at the gate. So he was like, all right. So we were playing, I can't remember, man. I feel bad about it. It was either New Hampshire or Vermont. And so I would always get to the site early, before everybody else, any of the bands or anything. I would get there like when the site was just being built usually. And that's when I would sleep. I'd get in and, get over to our trailer and just lay down, park the bike, lay down and get some sleep. So we're at the show. It's out in the middle of nowhere. I'm sleeping in the dressing room. Band shows up. We're hanging out. And our tour manager gets a call over the radio. Hey, Monty, can you come over to production? So he goes over to production and he comes back over. He's like, CJ, there's like a bunch of Hell's Angels at the gate saying they're here as your guests. I was like, well, tell them they better open the fucking gates. So that's, I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and meet them. So I jumped on my bike. I rode out to the gate. I met them at the gate, came back. They lined up their bikes in front of the Ramones trailer. All the other bands, Rancid, Metallica, Soundgarden, they're all coming by looking at all the bikes and stuff, So, our set time comes up. So I got them set up on the stage, had them put out some chairs, a couple of coolers, drinks and stuff. Got them all set up. We play the show. And we come off stage and they met me on the side of the stage. So on this, I got to give you a little extra thing here. On this tour, the Tibetan, the Shaolin monks were on the tour.
Okay, yeah,
they were
I
doing
remember that.
Kung Fu. Right.
I remember something about that. Yeah.
So we come off stage, meet the guys from the club. We're walking back to the trailer, and I'm talking to them. We're all laughing, and I look, and here's the Shaolin monks sitting on their motorcycles taking pictures.
Oh.
So I turned to the one dude that I'm walking with, and I was like, hey, these guys are Shaolin monks from China. They have no idea of what's going on here. And it was so funny. He said to me, he goes, what do you think? We're stupid? We're going to pick a fight with a bunch of Kung Fu guys and get our asses kicked so everybody could talk about this. So this was the coolest thing. And it was the best thing that happened on the tour. These guys, and they're all patch holders, legitimate patch holders, went over and took pictures with the Shaolin monks standing next to their motorcycles and stuff, shook hands with them. And it was, I stood back for a second. I was like, man, that's two warrior groups meeting up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was like, only something like this could bring two groups of people like that together and have it turn out like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had so much respect for those guys after that. I was like, man, that is some good stuff. But it was, but that whole tour was like that. Like all kinds of really cool stuff happened. I had one day, I got stuck at the Canadian border. I went to the wrong crossing. We were playing up in Montreal, and I went to the crossing in like Jackman, Maine, or something like that. We were supposed to be over a little bit further west. So when I went in, the guy was like, "You're at the wrong border crossing." Threw my papers back at me. I said, "Can I speak to the officer in charge?" And he was like, he was like, why? I said, because I have special circumstances I'd like to talk to him about. So he said, well, you can explain it to me. So I said, I'm part of a music tour. I'm supposed to be on stage in 2 hours. I know I'm a 2-hour ride from there right now. I said, I really need to get across the border right now. So the guy said, what tour? I said, Lollapalooza. He's like, okay. He's like, so he went over, and I'm watching him talk to the commanding officer, and the guy looks over at me. He comes walking over, and he goes, who are you? I was like, my name is CJ Ramone. I play in a band called the Ramones. He's like, yeah, I heard of the Ramones. I said, I need to get across the border. I'm supposed to be on stage in 2 hours. And I said, if there's somebody you need put on the guest list or anything like that. And he said, yes, I do. He said, if you could put my daughter and her friends on the guest list, then I can get you through. So I was like, okay, no problem. You got it. Just write down their names. And he put a phone on the desk in front of me. He said, call your manager. I was like, this guy is sharp. So I called up my manager, Monty Melnick, and I was like, Monty, I'm stuck at the border. I'm going to put you on with the officer in charge here. Just give him whatever he needs. So we got on the phone, and he took Monty's information down and his phone number and hung up the phone and then called Monty back. So Monty got it all straightened out, and they stamped our stuff, and they let us through. So now we got this, we got to make a beeline for this, for the show. And we ended up making it there on time, but I think it was the Violent Femmes went on in our slot because they weren't sure if I would make it on time. So they actually went on in our slot, and it was
oh, you guys just like traded slots, yeah.
Right. So when I got there, the first thing I said to Johnny was, I didn't miss the show. I'm here. I had 10 minutes. And he was like, yeah, it's okay. It's all taken care of. So that was about as close as I came to losing a week's pay. But it was wild. But, it was rigid. I didn't have a lot of time to break it in. It broke down a lot. I had, my two biggest problems were I had upswept pipes on it. I had the old Flash Gordon style pipes on it. And the chamber where the baffles are just kept, from the vibration, just kept busting open. Sure. And then my sissy bar kept breaking. So, I mean, it was like every 4 or 5 days I was combing the phone book looking for a welder,
Yeah, yeah.
But after the show up in Montreal, there was something happened in the city. There was like some kind of big problem in the city, like a riot or something. I don't remember. But the Metallica's truck drivers, we used to see them every night, just about. We'd pass them or they'd pass us, or we'd end up seeing them in a truck stop. So they came over to me and they were like, why don't you take a break tonight? Throw your bike in the back of the truck and sleep in the cab. And I was like, man, I would really appreciate that, because I wasn't getting all that much sleep.
Sure, yeah.
Because Metallica was the headliner on the tour, so they had their own tour of the States planned for after Lollapalooza. So we weren't playing in the A markets and the B markets. We were playing like C and D markets. So the drives overnight were like 400 or 500 miles.
Yeah, yeah.
So there was a fair amount of riding to do after the show.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't in 400, 500 miles. It's one thing in a car or a truck or whatever. It's another thing on a bike. Yeah, it's a wholly different thing on a bike.
So, I no joke, I'm not exaggerating. I spent more than 1 or 2 nights sleeping on the bike in a gas station parking lot with my blanket over my head. Yeah. That's just how it went. We would ride all night, and then, like I said, get to the site early and get over to the trailer and catch some sleep then. But I did a fair amount of camping out too, and we camped out in some not campgrounds.
Sure, yeah.
There was sometimes we pulled over just out, just get out of the view of the road in a little, bunch of trees and pitch tents to catch a little bit of sleep. But it was, this is no GPS, no cell phone. It's a paper maps and and paying attention, you know.
Yeah. And the old kind of put some of the directions on a piece of paper and stick it to your tank type of thing and all that. Yeah. Man, but that's fucking rad, dude. That must have been, that's something that will be with you forever, though. I'm sure, like, just that experience was fucking incredible.
Yeah, that's why I tell everybody, you know, riding's given me some of my best memories, you know, in my life.
Yeah,
I can't imagine, you know, traveling the world, you know, flying places and, you know, touring in other countries. I loved all of that stuff. It was all great, and I'm a well-traveled person, but nothing compares to riding, to being somewhere and riding. We were in we were in Patagonia, way down there, you know, bottom of South America, and I went down to a local motorcycle shop where they rented BMWs. And I was like, yeah, I want to rent a BMW and go riding up in the mountains. And the guy was like, hey, if you want, you know, one of my guys will take you out, you know, so you can, you know, do more off-roading and whatnot. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah. We were riding on goat trails on the side of a mountain, man. I was way outside my comfort zone, but it just, the views were unbelievable, and I just couldn't believe I was even doing this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But right, I'm telling you, like, how else are you going to get those experiences? You know what I mean? You see everything, you smell it, you experience it in a different way than, you know, sitting in the car or sitting on a tour bus or flying over it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just a whole different thing, brother.
Oh no, I know. It's funny because you mentioned some of that going out of your comfort zone stuff. A buddy of mine, this guy Bear, he has a company called Old Bike Barn, but he also does these like adventure motorcycle tours, like through like the Himalayan mountains and all places like that. And you're crossing those little fucking rope and fucking wood bridges and doing all that shit. And I'm definitely going on one at some point. I'm supposed to have been gone on a couple of them, but it's just hard getting all the time to do that. But at some point, I gotta say fuck it and make that time. And you know, obviously travel restrictions are crazy now and everything, but that's something I'm super looking forward to. Like, and I definitely, like, I'm not a heights guy. Like, it's like the only thing that bothers me. So it's like one of those things. I hate
heights, brother.
Yeah. So to be on these little dirt roads, on these mountain roads, on heights, I'm gonna be like, I know I'm gonna be 100% out of my fucking comfort zone. But at the same time, you know, I'm like, fuck, can't wait for it. You know what I mean? But But what even got you into riding in the first place? And was that your first bike, that Fat Boy you bought with your?
No, I rode bikes from when I was a kid. You know, everybody. Well, at least where I lived, everyone rode dirt bikes and go karts and three wheelers and whatnot.
When three wheelers were still legal.
Yeah, when it was still legal. But I got so I went from the dirt to the street with no problem, you know. But it's you know, it's just when I was a kid, my dad hung out with a couple of guys who rode, and I just always loved Harleys. From the first time, and I can remember when I was a kid, my dad worked for Ford. He was a parts guy at Ford when I was a kid, so I was constantly around hot rods and motorcycles and stuff. But it was just so burned into my brain from when I was a kid that I wanted one when I grew up, you know. Sure. And then watching Easy Rider and all the outlaw biker flicks when I was a kid, you know, it just there was I couldn't escape it, you know what I mean? I just loved it. I loved it. So that's why, you know, as soon as I got, you know, when I auditioned for the Ramones, I was in the Marine Corps. So, you know, I was actually living out here. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton. But as soon as I was back in civilian life working with the Ramones and saved up enough money, that was the first thing I did was I bought a new fucking Harley.
Yeah. So when like, how did that come about? How did you go about getting an audition with the Ramones? And what you joined? What was like 89?
89, yeah. You know, I had a friend who played drums for Joey's brother, Mickey.
Okay.
I think the name of the band was Stop at the time. My buddy Frank Saida, he played with Mickey Lee, and I was home. I was home from the Marines. I was staying with my mom and dad, and he called me up, and he was like, "Hey man, the Ramones are auditioning the bass player tomorrow at SIR Studio in Manhattan." I go, "Yeah, that's cool." I was like, "I'm in the Marine Corps, brother," and then I was like, "What am I talking about? I can go down and meet the Ramones, you know?"
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, "The hell with it." I got my got my bass out, dusted it off. Next day, I got down to the studio like 15, 20 minutes before the auditions were supposed to start. I wanted to just, get in there and meet them. And I went in, and the drum tech, Mitch Keller, met me, and then he introduced me to Monty, the tour manager, and he asked me my name and a couple questions, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to bring you in to meet the band." So I went in, and Johnny was standing there setting up his amp. Mark was behind the drums. Johnny's tech, Rick Weinman, was setting up the bass amp. So I walked in, put my bass down, walked right over to Johnny, totally unafraid and unintimidated. I just walked right up to him, and I was like, "Hey, Johnny, Chris Ward, nice to meet you. Big fan, man." And he was like, "Oh, okay, good to meet you." Blah, blah. Walked over, introduced myself to Mark, and then got my bass out, got plugged in, and Johnny was like, "Okay, what do you know?" I was like, "I want to be sedated." And I didn't play. I never played in. I never played in a punk rock band before. I was a heavy metal guy. I was Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. I was like that. I lived out in the suburbs. My town was the kind of town, like, if you didn't listen to Man of War, you got your ass kicked. That was like, that's the town I grew up in. So I didn't know any Ramones songs, but I just figured out I want to be sedated, and I think one other one before I went to the city. So Mark counted it off, and we played it, and then Johnny was like, "Oh, okay, sounds good." So he started asking me questions. I had a Yankee hat on, of course, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Yankee fan?" I was like, "Yeah." So we talked baseball a little bit, and then Johnny's big question for everyone, it was, "How many Ramone shows have you seen?" That's how he gauged whether or not you were a real fan. If you saw them more than 10 times, you were a real fan. So I said, "Yeah, I probably saw you 15 times or something." He's like, "Oh, okay, you're a fan. All right, good." So we played through the song one more time, and while we were playing, Joey walked in. So as soon as the song was done, I put my bass down. I walked over to Joey, shook his hand. I said, "Hey, Joey, Chris Ward." I said, "I'm friends with Frank Saida. He plays drums in Mickey's band." He's like, "Oh, yeah, I heard you were coming, yeah." So Monty came over, and he was like, "Okay, thanks for coming down. We'll call you." Blah, blah, blah. So I walked into the studio. I was like, "Holy shit. I can't believe I just played with the Ramones,
Yeah, because even if you didn't get it, you were like, I played with the Ramones.
Yeah. I totally. I dialed up everybody in my phone book. You're not going to believe it. I just jammed with the Ramones. Everyone was like, "What?" So next, that night I went out with my buddies, party, and had a good time. Told them the whole story. And then I think it was the next day, or maybe the day after, my mom was like, "Hey, Monty Melnick from the Ramones called you." And brother, no joke, my first thought was, "What, I leave something at the studio?"
Yeah.
I thought like maybe I left my strap or my cable behind or something. Like literally, that was my first thought. That was the first thing that came to my mind. So I called up Monty, and he goes, "Okay, the guys liked you. Learn a couple of more songs, anything from the live set, and then come back next Monday." And I was like, "Oh, all right, cool."
Yeah.
So that started the process. I auditioned, I guess.
So was it like rounds? Like, was it like you guys, they had a bunch of auditions the first day, and then only some guys got called back for next Monday type of thing?
Yeah. Well, it's funny enough. This is the funniest thing, right? So once I got through that first audition, I went down early and I stayed later to watch the other guys auditioning. Right?
Yeah.
Because I was a Ramones fan. I knew Johnny just wanted a Dee Dee guy. He just wanted somebody that was not necessarily look like Dee Dee or whatever, but at least look like a Ramone. You know what I mean? So I see like a big, tall, blonde guy and be like, "Yeah, he's not getting it," or dude with like curly black hair, and I'd be like, "Yeah, he's not getting it," And then I would hear guys like riffing, like outside I would hear them like riffing to Ramones songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, oh man. So, yeah. So that's what it was. Is I think they were auditioning like I think in the end they auditioned like 70 guys.
Wow. Yeah.
I heard 40 and I heard 70. So I imagine it's somewhere in between there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
even 40s.
as it turned out, only 2 people actually ever got callbacks, and that was me and Phil Caivano, who played in Blitzbeer, and then of course went on to play with Monster Magnet, who was definitely a better bass player and singer than I am, but Johnny said because he had curly hair, he couldn't, he wouldn't fit in the band. John,
motherfucker should have done his homework and straightened that shit, fucking relaxed it before he went in,
And it's funny. Like I'm friends with Phil, and like I was a fan of Blitzbeer. Like I was a fan of his band before I was in the Ramones. So like I used to go see his band play,
Yeah.
And then later on, when I met him and we got to be buddies, I said to him, I was like, man, I can't believe that I ended up getting the audition. Like I would have definitely, any other band would have picked him, you know what I mean? Without a doubt, just his songwriting ability and his chops are really good. But with Johnny, it really was all about, the image of the band.
Sure.
It was a very particular image, So, but me and Phil had a good laugh about it. We actually ended up touring together later on in Europe and stuff. And he's a great guy, talented dude too. But, yeah, that's, so that's how it went. It was literally, only 2 callbacks out of everybody who auditioned. It was just me and Phil.
Wow.
And I was the first guy that auditioned. Years later, a friend of Johnny's who I became friends with told me that Johnny called him at the end of the first day and was like, first guy who came in, boom. He's the guy.
Oh.
Like Johnny knew it from the first time I auditioned that I was the guy for the job. And yeah, and thank God. I mean, but Johnny and I had a lot in common. Johnny went to military school when he was young. I was in the military. We both came up in blue-collar, Irish Catholic blue-collar families. We really had a lot in common,
Yeah.
And because I was coming, right from the Marine Corps into the Ramones, like I was so mission oriented. So like when Johnny started asking me about drug problems and drinking, blah, 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 I just said to him straight up, I was like, Johnny, I know you got rules in the band. You tell me what they are and I'll follow them. I just don't want to get in trouble for shit that I don't know about. And he was like, yeah, no problem. So when I came into the band, I act as like a stabilizer within the band, right? They had gone through years of, drug and alcohol stuff, right? Mark had alcohol problems. Dee Dee had alcohol and substance abuse. Joey had alcohol and substance abuse. The band was really unstable for a very, very long time. So now Dee Dee left the band. Mark was in the program. Joey had quit drinking. So Johnny, that's what Johnny was looking for. He was looking for somebody who would just come in and do the job.
Yeah.
And that was what I was all about. When I got into the band, that was all I was about. I was like, you tell me what you need me to do and I'll get it done. And, the last couple of times I saw the Ramones, like they were really a shadow of what they had been. Like Dee Dee was like just strumming the strings open. They would shut them off at the board and, nobody was really moving around on stage. And it was really, they just really weren't what they had been. So when I got there, my total 100% goal was to make the Ramones exciting live again. And so when I went out on stage, I just turned my brain off. I just turned my brain off and just went for it 100%. Because, I went from sleeping in a room with 80 other guys to being on stage in front of a couple thousand people within a few weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the transition was that's a big transition to make. You know what I mean? And while most people are like, oh, I would have been so excited too, but it ain't easy to stand on stage next to people that you idolize and grew up with, and suddenly be playing in a band with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was fairly intimidating. But
and plus,
the way I looked at it
being
was,
the new guy, so like the fans are like, "Who the fuck's this?" You know what I mean?
Oh, brother, I got pelted, spit on, hit with bottles, boots, everything you could imagine, man. I got put through the ringer. It was total trial by fire, but I loved it, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. You know what I mean? The fans made me earn my spot on the stage. They really, really did, man. I mean, I put up with some crazy abusive shit while I was up there. But I would walk right. We were playing in England on my first tour. The first night, the first show, from jump, I was covered in spit. I had my lip busted open, hit with a boot. Just the fans were just brutal.
Yeah.
But I walked to the edge of the stage every time I was supposed to. I went out there. Finally, this girl gets up on her boyfriend's shoulders right in front of me with this big sign that says, "We want Dee Dee." I walked back to my amp. I picked up my water bottle. I turned around. I blasted her right in the chest with it, knocked her off her boyfriend's shoulders, and the crowd went wild. All of a sudden, they were chanting, "CJ, CJ." Like, it just flipped the switch. Like, because I know, sometimes you're in a bad situation, and how you react dictates how you're going to get through it, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
You show weakness to a pack of wolves, brother, you're going to get ripped apart.
Yeah.
And that's
a pack of wolves that have already spit on you and threw boots at your face and fucking this and that. It's like, guess what? You gotta retort with some of the same shit.
Yep. And every country I went to, I had to hit that. So I was in the band for 2 years, going to a new country for the first time and have to go through the same thing. So even like way past when I was the new guy in the band, I was still going to places and get roughed up. But like I said, I loved it. I loved every second of it because I knew I was earning my spot. And when I heard Dee Dee quit the band, I was in a truck with my friend, and they came on the radio. DJ came on and said, "CJ Ramone has announced he's leaving the Ramones. He wants to get sober." And I turned to my buddy and I said, "I'll never go to another Ramones show because it ain't the Ramones without Dee Dee. Because Dee Dee was my guy in the band. I was a hardcore Dee Dee fan. I loved Dee Dee. He was my guy. Dee Dee and Johnny. I just thought that they were like the two most exciting dudes I had ever seen play on stage. And but I couldn't have been more wrong. I went to every show they ever did again.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. You didn't go to a show as a fan. You know what I mean? You went as the replacement. Yeah. Yeah, man. So, what's been some of the standout? Like, I know, you had about 6 or 7 years of touring with them. Like, what besides knocking that chick off her boyfriend's thing and getting the respect of the crowd off his shoulders, what have been some of the kind of standout memories for you in doing that? Because that's such a rad story. Like of like how you just said fuck it and went down there and not thinking anything, and then all of a sudden you're the guy. But like, what's some of the kind of standout things for you in your career with the Ramones?
So that's a big one. You know what I mean? Like my first show, that's a real big one. You know what I mean? It's there's a couple of highlights throughout the years of like special moments and of stuff I did, with the band on stage. Like, I always wanted to play the song "Outsider." "Outsider" is my favorite Ramones song. I always wanted to play that song live, and I can't remember where we were, but one night I said to him, because Johnny picked the songs for the set, I said to him, "John, can we just try to do Outsider?" And he was like, I think I remember it. Yeah, sure, we can give it a shot. So we ran it down in sound check, and then we did it live. and it didn't come off really great live, but it really meant a lot for me to play that song on stage with them. Even though I'd been in the band for a while and everything, like that song was just so important to me, and Johnny gave it the thumbs up to play it. So that was like a big moment for me. But like, when we played on Lollapalooza, Soundgarden had me come up on stage and play Ty Cobb with them. I mean, I was a Soundgarden fan before I was in the Ramones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was sitting in the dressing room one day, and I was just playing some riffs, and Ben and Chris happened to be in the dressing room. I was warming up before a show, and I was playing some Soundgarden riffs, and Ben was like, "Holy shit, play that again." So I played it again. So that, a couple days later, they came up to me and they were like, they were going on stage and they were like, "You're doing Ty Cobb with us during this set." So I literally had 20 minutes to learn the song.
Yeah.
I grabbed my bass. I ran out to my pickup truck. I threw in the cassette. I listened down to the song. I figured out what key it was first, and then kind of figured out the progression from there. And I jumped up on stage, and the first time I ever heard myself play it to an amp was playing it on stage with them. And that was at Lollapalooza, so that's in front of a big crowd too. So that was a big moment. Another big one was the last Ramone show when I played on stage with Lemmy. When we did the song he wrote for the Ramones, Ramones, and me and Lemmy standing next to each other playing and singing harmonies and shit. And I mean that if I would have walked out the door and got run over by a taxi cab, I would have had no regrets for my life, man. That was kind of like the crowning moment of doing, any kind of live experience, man. Playing on stage with the Ramones and Lemmy.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
It just, brother.
No.
There's nothing that kind of top it.
So when you played with Lemmy, he gave up the bass, or you guys both played like double bass?
No, we both played bass. We both play, because Lemmy plays bass like a guitar, brother.
Yeah.
He's got crazy rhythm to his playing. His picking is really, really cool. So it's not even like we were like beating each other up doing it. Like his playing style is so distinct. It was almost more like a rhythm guitar.
Yeah.
But man, it was cool as hell. And I had a really cool experience with Lemmy. We were filming the Ramones video for Substitute. It was on the Acid Eaters record. It's a cover of a Who song. And Lemmy was in the video. So after the video was shot, me, Lemmy, the girl who did the makeup, and the girl who was the dancer in the video, the four of us all went back to my hotel room and spent the night hanging out, partying and drinking and shit. It's hard, like, for me, I always had to remember, like, I'm representing the Ramones, so I couldn't like fanboy out. I couldn't like geek out on Lemmy. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I wanted to be like, tell me about the Hawkwind days. You know what I mean? Like but I had to, and I always was. You know what I mean? I always just kind of laid back and I had to like flip the switch and be like, no, me and him are peers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're peers. We do the same thing for work. We live the same life. You know what I mean? He's got more time in, everything else, but I can't act like a fan around him. But that was a particularly good memory too. That was a lot of fun. He was a really good guy, man. Good guy.
Yeah. It's crazy when you talk about the tours and the final tours, and you didn't want the final tour to be in the clubs, and and then talking about rolling around Motorhead and stuff, like those days, like the 90s and stuff was crazy because I've seen the Ramones a few times, and I've seen them in clubs. Like I saw you like in the living room in Providence type of shit.
Right. Oh yeah.
And then, but I've also seen you guys play bigger venues, and it's the same with Motorhead. And like people don't realize there was a time when people didn't give a fuck about like these bands anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like you'd see Motorhead play in a room for like 300 people, like, and then then like 2 years later they're playing in front of 5,000 people again. It was such a weird fucking time. You know what I mean? And when you really sit back and think about it, like it was so up and down. sound. Like, it was crazy.
Yep. It was like in that hair metal to grunge period.
Yeah.
Like when things kind of jumped right in that period, there was a whole lot of time in between there where it was like nothing was cool. Like it was like, it was like the old stalwarts were hanging in there, but the new stuff that had broken was like just not cool anymore. And that's when grunge, all of a sudden, the whole Seattle thing, boom, and then everything was different, because a lot of it had to do with those guys and those bands talking about their influences and where the stuff that they listen to and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Well, you'd see like Nirvana and SSD T-shirts, so it was like they weren't hiding it for sure. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, and that's really what kind of, I mean, that really that scene, that movement breathed new life into the bands that came before them, because they totally were like, they were basically promoting the history of rock and roll. You know what I mean? That's really, Soundgarden and Nirvana and Pearl Jam and, Alice in Chains and all these bands. They were, they really were like promoting the history of rock, because they were also influenced by a lot of the classic bands like the Ramones, like Motorhead, like Black Sabbath. So it was kind of like a revival of that stuff.
Yeah, man.
We actually, right after Nirvana broke really, really big, we were playing a festival with them in, I think it was in Scandinavia somewhere. And we flew in. It was a fly in and play. We flew in. We got on a bus. We drove 6 hours out into the middle of nowhere. And we get off the bus, and they walk us into the catering tent. And there's a bunch of small tables with different bands' names on it. And then there's a big table with the Ramones on it. And we are not the headliner. Nirvana's the headliner. We're probably 4 bands down. And the promoter comes over to meet us, and he said, I wanted to tell you guys that when Kurt Cobain came in, he took the Nirvana name tag and the Ramones name tag and switched them as like as like a little sign of respect.
It was a nod. It was a nod for sure.
Yeah. And we all kind of, at first my reaction was like, what is he being, a wise ass? And then I was like, oh no, he's really like, he's really like a little tip of the hat there to the Ramones. And, everywhere we went, brother, it was amazing how much respect we got treated with from other bands. We really got treated well by other bands, for everybody from Metallica to Soundgarden, the guys from Rancid, the guys from Green Day. I mean, they all really treated us with a lot of love and respect. And the good thing about that was, Johnny and Joey kind of felt like they never hit the high note. You know what I mean? They thought they were going to be like the Bay City Rollers. They thought they were going to be like a teen pop idol band,
Yeah.
But when they realized that wasn't going to happen, and they just went full on punk, they were like, yeah, we're going to stay with the underground crowd. They kind of wrote off their careers, right? But when they saw that the biggest bands in the world at the time, when we were on Lollapalooza, Metallica, Soundgarden, Rancid, right? All of these huge bands, the biggest bands of that time period, how those guys came over to their dressing room every day to talk with them and sit around and shoot the breeze. I think they really got it. They understood what an impact that they had on music.
Yeah.
I think they understood that their worth wasn't measured in record sales and dollar amounts. It was how much they influenced the culture of rock and roll. And I was, and that's what I was saying before. Like, I realized like they deserved the biggest send off, and that's why I agreed to do Lollapalooza,
Yeah.
But that tour really kind of drove it home from them. Like, yeah, see these guys, biggest bands in the world. Who do they all list as one of their main influences? You guys, and it was really good for them. It really was good for them. That and getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think, did really help them to make peace with the careers that they wish they had had.
Yeah, and it's like you said, they're probably a little bit removed from it, so they didn't see it until it was right in front of their face.
Yeah.
But like, what band, like in these genres, like of whether it's like punk or metal or anything, like wasn't like what kid didn't listen to the Ramones? Like especially when you were like a lot younger, like if you were a kid in the '80s, there wasn't as much to listen to. So of course, like Ramones gonna be one of the first things you find. You know what I mean? Because you know, like they were like the bigger band and like the first wave of like of American punk and stuff, so it's probably they probably still, even with all that, they probably still couldn't fully understand the reach that band had, it's because it's bananas. Like, and you probably gave them a little perspective on that because you came in later, you know what I mean, and came in as a fan too, like firsthand, like, well, more about like what reach the Ramones had, like whether and I'm sure they had some kind of level of success with like sales and things like that, but like whether it matched the true impact or not, like that's always the tough thing. And sometimes like when you're the innovator and you're the first and you're the pioneer in that stuff, sometimes you don't get the just due, like, and then the guys that come in right after you kind of get more of the monetary benefits of that shit. Like I see that in all kinds of things, like, you know what I mean? Like, and dude, that's an artist's eye. That thing that you just said there of recognizing the people, you have an artist's eye, brother. You pick up on the source. Yeah.
You can, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to get all out there and fancy with the language or nothing, but that really is, that's an artist's eye. When you recognize that type of thing, when you recognize the source of of the influence for everything that comes after it, if you pick up on that type of stuff, man, that's good stuff, brother.
Yeah, well, and it's hard, because we've been around this earth a few rotations, you know what I mean, and you see that, but you see it time again, and not just music, like all kinds of facets of things like that.
Hell yeah,
that typically are more artistic endeavors, like, but sometimes the innovator doesn't get the same commercial success, but will always be, have way more of a reach in shaping how things unfold and down the road.
They set the table.
Yeah.
They set the table for everything that comes after them. And that's exactly right. That's who the Ramones were. I mean, of course, you could say that my view is a bit skewed because I was in the band. But long before I was in the band, when I saw the footage from the Ramones 77, It's Alive, you watch that, and to me, that is, that, as far as excitement and raw entertainment goes, that stands up there with Elvis Presley. You could put that live performance up against any of the classic live performances, and the Ramones stand right up there with the rest of them. I mean, that is, to me, truly, that is like a high watermark for live rock and roll music.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That recording and that live video, that really is a high watermark. And I wish it would get like re-released into theaters or somehow reintroduced on a major level. You know what I mean? And kind of help get something kick-started in the music scene, something new. You know what I mean? Because like you're saying, that's kind of like the beginnings of it, right? You introduce that to a whole new group of young people who have never heard it or never seen it before, and then see what sprouts up from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really is, to me, one of the most classic live performances in rock and roll history. I think personally.
Yeah, no, and that's not
But
even
like I
that's not
said-
a bad idea, especially with the technology today. They could probably like clean up the film a little bit and like
Yep.
not that you'd even want to really do that with the Ramones. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be fucking something about it being gritty is fucking perfect too. You know what I mean? But,
Yeah. Yep.
But show it in both formats, like do like a remix remaster type thing, and then also just show it in
Yep.
the original live, the original raw feed. That'd be fucking pretty badass.
Yep.
But yeah, and I mean, you talk about commercial success as a punk rock band. Besides Sex Pistols, what other punk rock band had like a feature of Hollywood film made? You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
not even a
Yeah, that's
documentary, just like a feature movie. Like it was just like a
Yep.
and I'm surprised you don't see. I'm surprised that hasn't made a little bit of more of a resurgence. You know what I mean? I don't know who owns that or whatever, but like that would do good. That would be a good thing to have on like Netflix or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm gonna go look for that tonight, actually, now because I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid, and I'm like, that's pretty fucking funny to watch again. But yeah, man, fucking. Anything else that we haven't hit on? I mean, I know you're not really. So you think the solo stuff, you're totally kind of done doing that, or you think that you think you just needed a break for a little while and might come back, or
Well, I didn't say I'm never gonna ever play out again. Like if I get a good offer to go somewhere and do something, I'll go out and do a show.
Yeah.
But I just can't get out on the road and slug it out like I used to. And the thing is at the level I was doing it at, I had to wear too many hats to make a tour happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just I was just carrying too much, and that's never a good thing. You know what I mean? And not that I had a great band, man. I had Lenny Lashley playing with me. I had Pete Sosa.
Yep.
I had Steve Soto. We lost Steve, but I had Steve Soto with me for years. From the Adolescents,
Yep.
Dan Root from the Adolescents. I had Dave Hidalgo and from Social Distortion, and Johnny Two Bags from Social Distortion out with me. I had the guys. Who else did I have out with me? I had the guys from the Aquabats out with me. I had, dude. I mean, I've been blessed to play with some great guys in my band, and having really good, solid players due to Tord and everything behind me. It made my job up there so much easier. On nights when my voice sucked, they would step up and pick it up for me, especially Steve Soto. It was great, and they really made it. They really made my job a lot easier. But when it comes down to like doing your own books and having to write the paychecks and make the decisions and try to juggle schedules to make sure everybody can do the tour, and I just don't want it bad enough to do all of that anymore.
Sure. So
my
now
biggest,
is it that, and this is not like like I'm not asking this in a derogatory way, just because I know different kinds of guys that are in bands. Like, is it because you don't want to give up control to like a tour manager type person, or is it because you don't trust them to do it right, or you just like doing it all yourself? Or
I've had a couple of good tour managers along the way, absolutely, without a doubt. But what I really need is a manager. I need like I would need like an overall manager, like somebody, because like I don't. I have to pay attention to record sales and making sure my royalties are getting picked up, like all of these things. And I'm just not a great business guy. Like, I don't know how to come up with a business plan and start a website and sell my stuff. I don't have no interest in it. And, people have told me straight up, they're like, you have to. These days, you have to do all of that for yourself because there ain't a whole lot of money in it, and having somebody else do it for you, chances are ain't going to be worth it. And, but I'm to the point where I'm like, well, I don't want to do it that bad anymore to do it. I think if I was touring at a little bit higher of a level, I probably would be able to handle it a little bit better. But realistically, brother, it's 30 years. No matter how cool your job is, 30 years deep, you start looking at other things. You start looking around. You know what I mean? And there's still other things I want to do. You know what I mean? I really want to get on a bike and I want to I want to ride Australia. I want to ride I want to ride down to Ushuaia, the southern tip of South America. It's as close as you can get to Antarctica, and be on land. Like, there's some things like that I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, just stuff outside of music.
Sure,
just
yeah.
other things that I want to get to, and like I said, my first step was get myself healthy and get myself into a better state of mind, and achieve that. I just got to keep up with what I've been doing, and just figure out what my next step, what I really want to do next. Where do I really want to do? Like, I got a book partially written. You know what I mean? I got like 500 pages deep in a book.
Yeah. And that's partially written. That's a big book.
Yeah. So there's things I want to do. There's other things I want to do, and of course, I really do. This is my last baby girl. She's 10 years old.
Yeah.
This is going to be. I'm not going to have any more babies, so I want to try to enjoy as much time with her as I can before she turns into a teenager and hates my guts.
Yeah. Because
So
that's just what happens. It's nothing personal. And then they grow up a little, and then they appreciate you again.
Yeah.
What's the book project like? Without I know you probably can't divulge too much about it, but what's kind of like the main?
No, I totally no problem. So, people kept telling me, you got to write about a book about the Ramones. You got to write a book about the Ramones. But at this point, there's a lot of books written about the Ramones. Everybody who's ever been involved with the Ramones, I think, has written a book.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different books. So, I thought I would do it from my own perspective and do a book more like a biography, because my life, even before the Ramones, my life was pretty wild. And I think a lot of people, because coming from my background, coming from, low middle class, blue collar background, I think a lot of people will be able to relate to my childhood and be able to understand the things that I say about my time in the Ramones better, because they'll be able to relate to me. So, a lot of people are like, oh, you're always playing the humble guy. Oh, you're always playing the nice guy, blah, blah, this and that. But, like I said before, it's a really odd thing to go from, a band that you idolize to being in the band. And then to be meeting all these other bands that you were a fan of and everything else.
And now they're a fan of you. Yeah.
I could definitely put on a good game face and sit there and just shoot the breeze with the guys and get to be buddies with them and everything. But there's always still that little piece of me that wants to go, man, I love that album. I love that song. What were those lyrics about?
Yeah.
But I never did. I never did that. I never went down that road. But, so sometimes I think when I talk about my time in the Ramones, people are like, oh my God, how could you be so humble, or how could you possibly deal with that? So I figured if I talk about my childhood a little bit and explain, people know where I'm from, that'll answer a lot of those questions later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, I had a pretty interesting life before the Ramones. I never had a boring life, that's for sure.
Now, were you in other bands before the Ramones? I know you said you were more in the Man-O-War world, but yeah, like what were you in any like bands that were like were they local stuff, or were you in like touring bands before, or was the Ramones the first touring?
Ramones was first touring band, but Long Island, where I lived back in the day, there were so many clubs on Long Island, and the scene was so good, you could make a living just playing in clubs. Literally, just as a club band, touring around on Long Island, you could actually make a living because there was that much money being made as a club band. And I played in a couple cover bands when I was younger, but by the time I started playing in clubs, we were already writing our own songs, doing covers with our own music. But I was always moving towards being in an all original band.
Yeah.
There's one band I got into called Guitar Pete Sax Attack. The guy whose band it was, Guitar Pete, he was like a Long Island legend. The guy's like a incredible blues player. Lived down in Nashville for a long time. Was a player down there in Nashville. And a guy that I owe a lot to because he really taught me how to handle myself on stage, and I just learned about the wider world of music through him. But with that band, Guitar Pete Sax Attack, we were pretty popular on Long Island, and I got to play in front of some pretty sizable crowds with him, and made some pretty good money with him too. And we did. We had 2 records, and we did originals with some covers, but we did classics like, AC/DC, Whole Lot of Rosie, and Ace of Spades by Motorhead and stuff like that. But yeah, so I was playing in clubs long before I was old enough to drink. I was playing in clubs at 16 years old. I was, the first band I played in, I got kicked out of because I didn't have an amp. And it was because I blew my amp up, but I didn't have an amp, and they didn't think I was taking it seriously, and they kicked me out. So after I got kicked out, it burned me so bad. I just sat in my room, and I figured out every Iron Maiden song, for the first 2 albums, for Iron Maiden and Killers, and got the bass parts down perfect. And then I poured through, Black Sabbath, Master of Reality, and Scorpions, Love Drive, and I just started learning, playing day and night. I would play my bass 6 or 7 hours straight, just sitting in my room, jamming, so that when the next time I went out to play with some friends, all of a sudden it was like everyone was like, holy crap. And now I had offers coming in from all different bands. Sure. Now on a Saturday night, and this is when I'm 16, 17 years old, now on a Saturday night, I'm driving from club to club playing with a couple of different bands. I had a friend of mine who was driving me because I wasn't old enough to drive yet. But yeah, and then these guys from Guitar Pete Sax Attack, they actually saw me playing with one of the bands, and they were like, "Hey, you should come play bass for us. We're about to put out a record." And I listened to the stuff, and I dug it. It was bluesy metal, and so I spent a couple of years playing with them.
Nice.
But the club scene died on Long Island, and there was no money to be made anymore, and all the bands were breaking up and everything. And I was 21 years old. I was working in Republic Fairchild. We built the A-10 in Farmingdale, Long Island. The A-10, the plane, and I was working there, making good money too. And the factory closed down, so I lost my job there. And the club scene was dead. And I was 21 years old and working as a landscaper. And I woke up one morning and I was like, "This ain't my fucking life, man. This is not going to be my life. I got to get out of here." And I went down to the recruiter, went in, saw the recruiter for the Marine Corps, and told him I wanted to enlist. And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "Look around. Every store on Main Street is closed. There ain't a fucking job around here." I was like, "I want to go out and see the world." And I told my dad and all his brothers are all military. I said, I want to get out of here. And he was like, "All right." And then, it's so funny because 2 years makes a big difference. It was probably less than 2 years later, I got the audition for the Ramones.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, what attracted you to the bass in first place? Because, you talk to a lot of people. Everyone wants to play guitar, this and that. But what attracted you and made you want to pick up the bass?
So what happened is when I was a kid, I played soccer. I was a sports kid. I played soccer. That was my thing. And coming out of junior high junior high school into high school, I had a 6-inch growth spurt in 3 months. And what it did was it just destroyed all the connective tissue in my knees. So I had to wear knee braces. Oh. So here I was going to this high-end high school that my father was, paying through the nose for me to go to because of the soccer program, and I couldn't play soccer. I couldn't even walk on the stairs. I had to take the elevator. So I was sitting on the couch one day. I was just depressed as hell, and my father walked in and he was like, "You can't sit around and do nothing." He's like, "I don't care what you do. I don't want to walk in the house and see you fucking sulking." So I had friends that had a band, and they had no bass player. So I said to my dad, "Can I get a bass?" And he bass guitar, and he was like, "Yeah, no problem." So he bought me like a cheap, Fender P bass copy.
Yeah.
And got it home. I had no idea what to do with it, none whatsoever. But I sat down, and I started picking off bass lines. I just sounded it out note by note. I just sounded it out, and then I started to recognize patterns. And once I recognized patterns, that was it. I got good really quick once I started to understand the patterns. And to this day, I can't read or write music. I've never taken a lesson in my life. And, I just in the last few years, I actually know all the notes on the neck now.
Yeah.
But, I literally sat down and taught myself how to play bass. So I used to go to their practices and like help set up the drums and plug in the amps. I was like the roadie.
Yeah.
And I showed up one day with the bass, and they were like, "Oh, cool, you got a bass." The guitar player Keith, friend of mine, he was like, "All right, let me show you how to play a couple things." And I was like, "No, I already know a couple of songs." I was like, "If you guys start, I can jump in." And that was it. And I just started playing bass, just as simple as that.
Yeah.
It was just literally as simple as that. Like, I can't do soccer. I have to do something else. But I have to say, I always loved music. I always had an intense love for music from when I was really little.
Sure.
From when I was really, 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 really little. So, it really wasn't such it sounds like kind of out of left field, but it really wasn't. I mean,
yeah.
I just happened to, have a little bit of music, natural music ability.
Yep.
And it's funny, my, one of my, I think it's actually my great uncle, one of my great uncles who was a priest from, up in Boston. He was an incredible, violinist, and, just a really, really gifted player. And then one of my other cousins from up there too, my cousin, Steve Canaccio, he is a really, really gifted guitar player, singer. And my cousin Freddie played drums. So I, when people used to ask me, is music in your family? I used to be like, no, until I started to think like, oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I do have some natural music ability in my family. And,
coincidentally, it's your Boston family. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just playing.
Yeah. We lived in Dorchester for a little while when I was a kid, and we lived in Peabody for a little while too.
Okay. Yeah.
And we lived in East Boston with my grandmother and grandparents for a little while. But yeah, I lived up there for a couple of years, but I was a little guy. My father used to work for Zare. I don't know.
Oh, I remember Zare's. Yeah, it was like a department store. Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad he ran the sporting goods department at the store in Revere.
Okay. Nice. That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But fuck yeah, man. So fucking, it's crazy. Like when you think about like when we're kids, right? Like I remember like picking up my first bass and my first guitar and all that, and just having the time and the will and the drive to sit there for hours and try and figure shit out. It was like there's nothing now that could get me to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but when you're a kid, and especially like us, pre-internet, computers and all that shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we did. We fucked around with instruments or other shit, you know what I mean? Or tried to figure out, or read the Anarchist cookbook and try and figure out how to make fucking M80s and shit or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just dumb shit like that. But like it's crazy like that mind, because when you're that young too, your mind's still more like a sponge. So you can just pick shit up quicker, like because you don't got all this bullshit bouncing around in your head yet, And it's like,
oh yeah.
But it's crazy, man. But it's like it's the same story for a lot of people. Like, yeah, I was in like middle school, whatever, going into high school, and just started fucking around and figured it out myself. And that's the punk rock shit too. Like, like not classically trained guys. It's just like you learn that shit in your in your bedroom.
Yep. Yeah, that's it's a funny thing. I know a lot of people who came up. Who came up a lot, in a lot nicer areas, came from families with more money.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple came up and had the opportunity to take music lessons and all different types of opportunities. They were able to be on the travel team because their parents could afford for them to be on travel teams and all that stuff. And their experience of doing that stuff really is no different than my experience, except that for me to be able to do a lot of that stuff, I just did it through sheer willpower. Yeah. Like literally, I just did it through sheer willpower because, if I couldn't, if my family couldn't afford something that I wanted to do or something that I needed, I just found a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just did whatever I had to do. You know what I mean? So, it's, I guess it's just as intense as, my one buddy Keith, who's an amazing guitar player, incredible, great guitar player, took lessons from a really, well-known guitar teacher in New York and, really, really super intense playing. But when he plays guitar and I play bass, we're playing on the same level.
Yeah.
Even though I never took lessons and I and I knew nothing about music, when we go at it, when we jam out, we're both like just completely involved in it. You know what I mean? Everything is for every note that you play, so to me, I right now, like these days, I wish I would have been able to take lessons. I wish I had taken lessons and learned to read and write music. There's some things that take me hours to figure out, some like really complex stuff. Like, I've always been a big fan of Yes. I know that's not very punk rock, but when I first started playing bass, I just started searching out great bass players.
Yeah.
And Chris Squire is like a crazy great bass player, unbelievable. And sometimes when I need to figure out some of his more complex stuff, it takes me a long time and it's super frustrating. And I'm always thinking to myself, like, if I just learned to read music, I could be sitting down with a chart and playing this shit, no problem. At the same time, I almost like that I have to sit down and figure out these crazy, weird time changes he does and stuff like that. Yeah. I almost enjoy it more, suffering to get to it.
Sure.
But, a lot of times
you're earning it. You're earning it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and to tell you the truth now, like now, if I hit something that it's taken me too long and I'm about to lose, interest in even bothering with it, I'll flip on YouTube and I'll go to, Tempest Fugit bass cover, and there'll be some kid on there like explaining to you, exactly how to play it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's so nuts.
It doesn't matter. Whatever it is you want to do, some dude on YouTube or some gal on YouTube has done it, filmed it, and wants to show you how to do it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But going back, just even rewinding a little bit, I know there's like things about, there's benefits for lessons and learning things, but I think, for people, I don't know, especially in like genres like punk and stuff, like or metal, whatever you're into, unless you're trying to do classical music and whatever, where you got to really learn to read and do all that shit. But like, you learning yourself, I feel like, in like, sitting in your room and figuring things out for yourself, I feel like being self-taught also kind of frees you a little bit because you're not worried about scales and is this correct, and it allows you to kind of develop your own style a little more and come up with your own way, and you know, sometimes some of the most unorthodox shit is the shit that just fucking hits, like you said. Like Lemmy doesn't play bass like a regular bass, you know what I mean? But do you think if Lemmy was trying to learn scales and this and that, like would he have come out the same way at the end? I don't know, like, because I don't know his, you know, and unfortunately he's not with us to ask him that stuff, but you know, just that type of thing, like you learning on your own, or you know, any kid doing that stuff, like you, I think it allows you a little more freedom to develop your own style and be more creative with stuff, I think.
The other thing too is this, brother. Like the music that I write, I'm not writing, I'm not writing to try to, musically express my emotions through chord changes. I sometimes I get something in my head that I have to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I get a feeling in me that I have to, like, I just gotta play and get it out. You know what I mean? And so when I write something, that's where I'm writing from. I'm not writing from, how do I craft the perfect song, or what's the perfect formula for this song. It's just something in me that I have to get out, right? And that's really like, and I don't want to make myself sound like I'm not trying to over intellectualize my abilities or nothing like that, but that's really where where my playing and where my songs come from. I got something in me and I got to get it out. Yep. It's not because I want to perform this solo for you or I want to play this piece for you. It's like, I got this inside me and I got to say it because I know there's some motherfucker out there who's going to listen to this and go, holy shit, you're speaking for me. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I grew up with. I grew up with listening to music, and especially like Black Sabbath, right? I'm a Cold War kid. I grew up in the Cold War era, right? That was like a constant thing for my generation, was the constant threat of nuclear war. Yeah. So when I started listening to Black Sabbath and listening to all those dark lyrics and about the end of the world and all that stuff, like that shit was real to me. So when I listened to those lyrics, like Ozzy was speaking for me. Like he said exactly what I wanted to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the type of stuff that when I was a kid, like that's the music I was drawn to, was the songs that were saying things that I didn't have words for, So now when I write a song, I know I've found, I've been touring on my own, doing my own thing now since like 2009. I found my tribe. I found the people who listen to my stuff and feel the same way that I felt when I listened to Black Sabbath, or when I listened to Iron Maiden or something like that. You know what I mean? I know I have people out there who relate to my music in that same way. And that's really, when you write songs, that's what you want to do. You want to connect with the people who hear that song and go, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I'm there with you. I know what you're saying. And even if it's I have one song on a record that when my little one was real small, it was like a little thing that I used to hum to her first, just a little melody I used to hum to her, and then I added some words to it, and I started singing the words to her. And after doing that, for 3 or 4 years, suddenly I realized, like, holy shit, that's a catchy little tune. You know what I mean? That's really a really nice little tune. And I sat down and I wrote the song, and I wrote it about, about my little girl. And even though it's about my little girl, it's kind of like a universally good message for somebody that you love. You know what I mean? But it like, that's the kind of stuff that when people hear it, they really relate to it. It's like, yes, like I that's what I wanted to say. That's what was, that's what I was trying to like get to. That's the place I wanted to get to, and that's what makes, That's what makes being a musician and a songwriter. That's what makes it for me. And I know there's dudes out there that are just like, is it a hit? Is that going to be a hit?
Yeah.
Is that hook heavy enough to give us a hit? And I don't, I'm not, I would never say anything bad about those guys. They're smarter than I am because they're out there making a living instead of surviving. Like,
Yeah.
I'm out there surviving. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to make enough money to put a little food on the table and a little extra money in my pocket. But there's dudes out there that just every song they write, they're like, is this the song? Is this the one? And I give them major props for that. But I'm not like that. I write a song when I feel like I got something to say. I write a song when I want to get something out, or I write a riff when I start feeling really good, or I'm really down, and I start finger picking out something on the acoustic. That's why I do it.
Absolutely, man. That's fucking. You know what? That's a great way to fucking end this too, man. Because that was that was like perfect, dude. Like that was a good fucking segue.
All right.
Man. But fuck yeah, man, dude. We're at like 2 hours, bro, and that's on the phone, man. Fucking
yeah.
This has been fucking awesome.
That's because I'm stuck in my house with nobody to talk to. I'm unloading all my shit on you.
Yeah, no, man. This was fucking awesome, dude. And down the road, man, we can ever do this face to face. It'd be fun to do another one. But yeah, before we close this out right now, is there any anything? I know you haven't been doing anything musically, but is there if someone wants to find out more shit, obviously I'll post up your Instagram. But if you want to give your
Instagram and Facebook. My feed is all. I keep my feed positive, and it's always interesting. I don't just dump shit up. I usually I'll pump up a couple of good Ramones memories, shoot some nice scenery from the house, a little video from me hiking up in the hills or something, goofy stuff. Like I keep my feed interesting in a way that I would that some people's IG accounts I try to avoid just because everything's such a bummer, you know what I mean? Everything's so serious and blah blah blah. I always treat my feed like a little bit of an escape, you know what I mean? Like if you need a break from everyday life and you want to have a giggle, check out my feed. Okay.
So and it's just and is there like a website too, or is it just your Instagram and Facebook?
Yeah, my website don't really operate much anymore.
Okay. Well, I'll put those. I'll put the Instagram and all that stuff in the show notes and everything.
Right on.
But yeah, man, let me shut this off here. I'm not gonna hang up yet, but I'm just gonna shut the recorder off here. But again, dude, thanks so much for talking tonight. It's been fucking awesome. Let me shut this down here.